ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ ਦੇ ਓਕਾਨਾਗਨ ਵਿੱਚ 8 ਹੋਰ ਘਰ ਅੱਗ ਦੀ ਚਪੇਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਗਏ ਨੇ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਜੰਗਲਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੱਗੀ ਅੱਗ ਦੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਭਾਰੀ ਨੁਕਸਾਨ ਹੋਇਆ ਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਤੱਕ 199 ਘਰ ਅੱਗ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਖਤਮ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਨੇ। ਸੋਮਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਸੈਂਟਰਲ ਓਕਾਨਾਗਨ ਐਮਰਜੈਂਸੀ ਟੀਮ ਨੇ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ 8 ਹੋਰ ਘਰ ਅੱਗ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੜ ਗਏ। ਜੋ ਤਾਜ਼ਾ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਰਟੀਆਂ ਨੁਕਸਾਨੀਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਵੈਸਟ ਕਲੋਨਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਆਲੇ ਦੁਆਲੇ ਦੇ ਪੇਂਡੂ ਖੇਤਰ ਵਿੱਚ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਰਹਿਣ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਘਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਆਨਲਾਈਨ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਜੋ ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਸੁਰੱਖਿਅਤ ਥਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਇਸੇ ਉਮੀਦ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬੈਠੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਬਚ ਜਾਣ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਵਾਪਸ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਰਤ ਸਕਣ। ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਭਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੱਖੋ-ਵੱਖ ਥਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਜੰਗਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਗ ਲੱਗੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ। ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ 384 ਥਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਅੱਗ ਲੱਗੀ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਕਿ ਪਿਛਲੇ 24 ਘੰਟੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 20 ਹੋਰ ਥਾਵਾਂ ਤੇ ਅੱਗ ਲੱਗਣ ਦੇ ਮਾਮਲੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆਏ ਨੇ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਕਿ 323 ਥਾਵਾਂ ਤੇ ਅੱਗ ਲੱਗਣ ਦਾ ਕਾਰਨ ਬਿਜਲੀ ਡਿੱਗਣਾ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਤੇ 20 ਥਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਮਨੁੱਖੀ ਕਾਰਨ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਗਿਆ, ਜਿਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਅੱਗ ਲੱਗੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਮੌਕੇ 168 ਥਾਵਾਂ ਅਜਿਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜੰਗਲਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਅੱਗ ਬੇਕਾਬੂ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਉੱਤੇ ਕਾਬੂ ਪਾਉਣ ਦੀਆਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਹੋ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਪਰ ਬੇਹੱਦ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਲ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਵੱਖੋ-ਵੱਖ ਥਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਅੱਗ ਤੇ ਕਾਬੂ ਪਾਉਣ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਸੈਂਕੜਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਾਇਰ ਫਾਈਟਰ ਲੱਗੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ। ਹੋਰ ਦੇਸ਼ਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਵੀ ਫਾਇਰ ਫਾਈਟਰ ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਪਹੁੰਚੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਦਦ ਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ। ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ ਦੇ ਕੁਝ ਖੇਤਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਜ ਮੀਂਹ ਵੀ ਪਿਆ ਹੈ, ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੁਝ ਰਾਹਤ ਵੀ ਮਿਲੀ ਹੈ।
The impacts left by these fires are deep, but I know that it is not just the physical space that makes a home. It is the love, the memories, and the shared experiences. I cannot comprehend the pain that many of you are going through at this time, but I do know that the spirit of British Columbians lives in our compassionate support for one another, and that you are not alone. Your neighbors, your community, your province is with you. As people go through evacuations and experience a deep sense of loss, it's incredibly important that we look out for one another and pay close attention to our mental health. The province, health authorities, and other agencies are working to connect people to vital mental health services during this incredibly difficult time. And as part of that work, we deployed disaster psychological support teams to reception centers in the interior. These compassionate teams use a community wellness approach to give people the tools they need to reduce their level of emotional distress. First Nations Health Authority staff are also attending reception centers to support Indigenous peoples in accessing culturally safe wellness counseling services and traditional wellness resources. If you need mental health supports or just want somebody to talk to, please call the BC Mental Health Supports line for free at 310-6789. Again, that number is 310-6789. They are available to help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Additionally, youth aged 12 to 24 can access virtual supports on the Foundry BC app and at foundrybc.ca. I cannot understate how important these tools are. If you need someone to talk to, please do not hesitate. Over the past weekend, numerous evacuation orders have been downgraded and rescinded in parts of the Okanagan, but we are still in very challenging and dynamic times. As of this morning, there are more than 8,000 people on evacuation order and nearly 54,000 people on evacuation alert. The BC Wildfire Service, local governments, and First Nations are working diligently to assess the situation and make sure that areas are safe before people can return to their home. Keeping people safe is our first priority. As soon as it is safe, you'll be allowed to return to your community. While the situation has momentarily stabilized in the Okanagan, now is not the time to let our guard down. Yesterday, the warming and drying trend continued with above seasonal temperatures in the south and the north. There are several heat warnings in effect in Peace River, in Fort Nelson, and North Coast Inland. We have all seen how quickly the situation can change in a 24-hour period. Please continue to be prepared, have an emergency plan and a grab-and-go kit ready for you, your family, and your pets. Your First Nation or local authority will provide information on evacuation routes and evacuation reception centers where you can access emergency support services. If you are under an evacuation order, please leave the area immediately. this helps protect your community, your family, yourself, and emergency management personnel. And I want to sincerely thank everyone who has been following evacuation orders. I know that it is stressful. I know that it is difficult, but it is incredibly important, and it is the law. Evacuee reception centers and service providers are working around the clock to ensure that everyone who has been asked to evacuate their homes has the support and services that they might require. While these reception centers are operated by local communities, the province is providing support by training more volunteers, calling on teams from other communities across the province to launch virtual support centers, and adding Service BC staff to help make sure evacuees get the support that they need. I want to thank all of the local government and First Nations teams and their volunteers who have stepped up across the province to help support people in the interior during this past week. They may be volunteers, but they are trained, committed, and devoted professionals in their own right, and we couldn't do this work without them. Thousands of evacuees have taken up the support, and our emergency management personnel have been working around the clock to make sure that every call for help is answered. Early last week, everyone who registered for emergency support services was called back and referred to accommodations where needed. This has been a monumental task, but we have put in the necessary resources to make sure that everyone is supported. If you are currently evacuated and require support that you have not yet received, please call 1-800-585-9559. Again, that number is 1-800-585-9559 for any evacuees who are currently evacuated and still require support that they have not yet received. The steps we took over the last couple of weeks to ensure accommodation have been successful. We have rooms available, we have supports ready, we are here to help. Because emergency support services is normally provided the same day it is requested, it is not typically provided retroactively. That being said, we are acutely aware that the West Kelowna Reception Centre faced challenges processing the number of evacuees that arrived there in a timely manner, resulting in abnormally long wait times before being referred to accommodations and receiving per diem supports. I've asked my ministry to work closely with the local authority managing the West Kelowna Reception Centre to look at these cases with compassion and flexibility to determine where additional supports might be required. We are working quickly to establish a process for people who were unable to receive emergency support services due to long wait times and covered costs for accommodations through their own means. People can call 1-800-585-9559 or email embc.ess@gov.bc.ca to provide information about their situation, and we will follow up. So once again, that number is the same number I provided earlier. It's 1-800-585-9559, and the email address is embc.ess@gov.bc.ca. In the meantime, we have worked with the BC Hotel Association to ensure coverage of accommodation supports for people who are currently in accommodation, but were only able to register after they secured accommodation. We will also be conducting a detailed review with the local authority so that we can better understand what happened at the West Kelowna Reception Centre and how we can make sure that those challenges don't impede emergency support services delivery in the future at this or any other site. It comes as no surprise that people across the province and beyond have been eager to provide support to people who have been displaced from their homes. While much appreciated, the donation of goods and services can be a logistical challenge for teams already under immense pressure. So if you would like to help, I'm asking you to make a monetary donation to trusted organizations such as the United Way of British Columbia, Canadian Red Cross, BC SPCA, or Food Banks of British Columbia. Before I turn it over to Minister Ralston, I'd like to once again thank the BC Wildfire Service, local fire departments, the RCMP, healthcare providers, search and rescue teams, emergency support services, personnel and volunteers, and everyone who has been working long hours to protect people their communities, to support one another, and to take care of one another. Thank you so much. I'll now turn it over to Mr. Ralston.